Fast, flashy, ferocious. David Haye didn't walk into boxing. He stormed in like a hurricane wrapped in muscle and attitude. A cruiserweight knockout artist with heavyweight ambition. The Hayemaker brought movie star looks, world-class speed, and a right hand that could shut off the lights in an instant. They called him cocky until he started knocking world champions flat. They said he was too small for the heavyweights until he snatched the WBA title and made giants fall. Unified cruiserweight champion. WBA heavyweight champion. From crushing opponents to cruising in custom supercars, dripped in designer, and headlining pay-per-views, he turned flash into fortune and fists into fame. So, before we relive the rise, the roar, and the ruthless charisma of David Haye, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. Because the Hayemaker didn't just fight, he made noise. David Darren Haye was born on October 13, 1980, in the gritty Bermondsey district of London, a place where toughness wasn't just admired, it was necessary for survival. By the time he stepped onto the global stage, the kid from South London wasn't just fighting, he was rewriting history. But how did he rise to become one of boxing's most explosive, charismatic, and controversial champions? They called him the Hayemaker, and not without reason. With a trademark blend of speed, swagger, and devastating power, he became the first British fighter to reach the final of the World Amateur Boxing Championships, grabbing silver in 2001. But it was the professional ring where he made his mark, first dominating the cruiserweight division and unifying the titles in 2008, then defying the odds by moving up to heavyweight and toppling the 7-foot giant Nikolai Valuev to claim the WBA crown. He wasn't just winning, he was doing it in style, cutting through his opponents like a sharpened blade through silk. From his brutal knockout of Derek Chisora to the dramatic rematch loss to Tony Bellew that marked the twilight of his career, every fight felt like an event. Every punch had the crowd gasping, and behind the knockout reels and pay-per-view headlines was a man building an empire. From founding Hayemaker Promotions to launching his own vegan brand and amassing a net worth of $32 million. His story begins with a question that would define his entire career. Could a man from South London become the heavyweight champion of the world? At just 18, he wasn't waiting to be discovered. He was kicking down doors. Fast, explosive, and fearless, he lit up the amateur circuit and made history as the first British boxer to reach the finals of the World Amateur Championships. But fate, as always, had its own plans. In a gut-wrenching twist, Haye was denied a place at the 2000 Sydney Olympics. For most, that would have been the end. For Haye, it was fuel. A fire had been lit, and the ring would never be the same again. When he turned professional in 2002, he entered the sport like a storm no one saw coming. 7 straight knockouts in his debut year signaled not just a new contender, but a new kind of menace. Slick, muscular, cocky, but with the hands to back it up. Yet boxing, ever the cruel tutor, struck back in 2004. He faced seasoned champion Carl Thompson and started strong, blitzing Thompson with furious combinations. But speed without strategy is a double-edged sword. Haye punched himself out. In the 5th round, the young lion was stopped humbled. It was a brutal lesson in patience and pacing, and for a moment, the hype threatened to unravel. But he didn't fade, he evolved. He returned stronger, sharper, and colder. In 2006, he delivered a 45-second knockout of Alexander Gurov that echoed across Europe. A single right hand. That was all it took. That was all it ever took, really, when Haye got it right. But he wasn't chasing European glory. He was thinking bigger. He was thinking legacy. In April 2007, in what he called a crazy step up, he moved to heavyweight for a test run against Tomasz Bonin. The fight barely lasted a round, but what Haye said after the win was what truly mattered. I never said I wanted to be the cruiserweight champion. I've always said I'm going to be heavyweight champion of the world. He was done with dreaming. He was now in pursuit. But first, he had a score to settle at cruiserweight. In November 2007, he squared off with Jean-Marc Mormec, the hardened Frenchman holding the WBA, WBC, and Ring magazine belts. And when Haye was dropped in the 4th round, the critics thought he'd finally reached his ceiling. But they underestimated something vital. David Haye didn't fight with fear, he fought with purpose. In the 7th, he unleashed a devastating combination that left Mormac sprawled and the title's his. The lineal throne was now his. Then came the coronation, a showdown with fellow Brit Enzo Maccarinelli. The hype was electric. 2 power punchers, 1 undisputed crown. And just like that, in 2 surgical rounds, Haye destroyed him. He didn't just unify titles, he completed his cruiserweight chapter with fireworks. But he didn't linger. There was no basking. The real fight was calling. In 2009, he stepped into the ring with the 7-foot-tall, 320-pound Nikolai Valuev. It wasn't just David versus Goliath. It was a physics-defying dare. Haye gave up 100 pounds in weight, 9 inches in height, and all logic. But in that ring, he moved like a ghost and struck like a sniper. It wasn't a brawl, it was a masterclass. And when the final bell rang, history was rewritten. He became the WBA heavyweight champion of the world, the lightest man ever to beat a reigning heavyweight titleist of Valuev size. He'd done it, the dream realized, but the crown would prove harder to keep than to win. His title defenses were explosive. He floored veteran John Ruiz and embarrassed Audley Harrison in a 3-round demolition. His fists sold tickets. His words sold pay-per-views. But the world wanted one fight. One name, Vladimir Klitschko, July 2011. Hamburg. The fight that promised fireworks delivered chess instead. Klitschko controlled the ring with robotic precision, keeping Haye at bay with his jab and height. The Brit couldn't close the distance. The dream of unifying the belts ended with a unanimous decision loss. And then came the infamous broken toe excuse, a moment that drew ridicule. But beneath the jokes was a man who had just watched his lifelong dream shatter under the brightest lights. Retirement seemed inevitable, and he leaned into it. But boxing never lets go easy. In 2012, a backstage brawl with rival Derek Chisora pulled him back. Their fight at Upton Park was pure Haye, chaos and carnage. He dropped Chisora with a violent combination that reminded everyone exactly who he was. But that would be his last great night. The years that followed were riddled with injury. A torn shoulder canceled 2 fights with rising star Tyson Fury. Fans began to question whether he was running or whether his body simply couldn't do it anymore. And still, he returned. In 2016, he mounted a comeback. He looked fresh, sharp. The old speed flickered. But then came Tony Bellew. In their 2017 showdown, Haye suffered a torn Achilles mid-fight. He fought on, hobbling, swinging, surviving. But the warrior couldn't overcome the injury. Bellew stopped him. The rematch in 2018 ended with Haye on the canvas again. But this time it was more than just defeat. It was closure. He didn't just walk away from boxing. He left behind a trail of moments, explosive knockouts, bitter rivalries, and one of the most daring cruiser-to-heavyweight transitions in modern boxing. But behind the flash and the fury, behind the blinding lights and brutal blows, who really is David Haye? What fueled his rise? And what was the price of his ambition? The answers lie not just in the victories, but in the wars that came with them. In 2017, with his body beginning to betray him, but his ambitions still burning, he launched a bold new chapter, merging his Hayemaker promotions with Richard Schaefer's Ringstar Sport to form Hayemaker Ringstar. It wasn't just a business move. It was a declaration of war on the old guard. Eddie Hearn's Matchroom and Frank Warren's Queensberry Promotions. Their mission was clear, to shake up boxing's promotional world from both sides of the Atlantic. That summer, they inked a 3-year TV deal with UKTV's Dave, a major entertainment channel, promising 5 fight nights per year. But his ambition wasn't limited to boxing. He'd already dipped into media years earlier, starring in his own Sky One reality doc David Haye vs., trading jabs and jokes with Ricky Gervais, Justin Bieber, and Mickey Rourke. In 2012, he even entered the jungle for I'm a Celebrity. Get Me Out of Here, finishing 3rd and charming a new kind of audience. Even outside the ropes, Haye remained a showman. But behind a flash, what was he really chasing? Fame? Legacy? Or was it still that same relentless fire that once drove a South London boy to believe he could rule the world? He lived in Beckenham, London, with his wife Natasha and their son Cassius, named in homage to boxing royalty, Cassius Clay. But the ring's intensity doesn't always fade at home. After 8 years of marriage, the couple divorced in 2016, leaving behind a personal chapter far less public, but no less defining. Deeply rooted in his heritage, Haye once trained in northern Cyprus, even bearing its flag alongside England's and Jamaica's during fights. But as his path evolved, so did his identity, eventually relinquishing that citizenship and shifting focus once again. Then, in 2014, came another bold reinvention. He turned vegan after a haunting documentary exposed the brutal reality of factory farming. That conviction sparked not just a lifestyle shift, but a movement. He launched a vegan protein line and partnered with PETA to advocate for animal rights. Beneath the bravado, there was always a man searching for meaning beyond the knockout. But in stepping away from the world he once ruled, could he finally find peace in the life he built beyond the ring? Or would the echoes of his past pull him back once more? His lifestyle isn't just a reward, it's an extension of his identity. From the moment he burst onto the boxing scene, he wasn't just fighting for belts. He was fighting for freedom, for style, for the kind of life that turned heads and stirred envy. And he built it piece by piece. Step into his world and you'll find sleek London residences, discreet but dripping with elegance, gyms, saunas, modern design, everything tuned to perfection, like the body of a prizefighter still in his prime. His homes were more than sanctuaries, they were statements. And so were his cars. The crown jewel? A Rolls-Royce Wraith, wrapped in a stunning blend of gloss pearl white and its original maroon and silver. A two-tone masterpiece that turns heads before it even hums to life. The Wraith isn't just a car, it's an experience, gliding on silence, powered by a V12 engine and cushion and opulence. But Haye didn't stop at one. A convertible Rolls-Royce, likely a custom Dawn, added open-top elegance to his fleet. Each vehicle was a reflection of his taste, refined yet assertive, loud without saying a word. And true to form, Haye didn't just drive them, he personalized them. From custom wraps to hand-picked interiors, he even left his mark at Hayemaker, the celebrity customization house, signing the garage wall after collecting his wife's tailored Wraith. His wardrobe mirrored the same energy: Gucci, Dolce & Gabbana, diamond-studded watches that sparkled like the lights under which he used to fight. His vacations? Nothing short of cinematic. Private villas in Morocco, eco-resorts in Costa Rica, yacht escapes that whispered of a man who fought for everything he had and now refused to settle for less. He isn't just living. He is curating a legacy of luxury, proving that the same drive that fuels a champion in the ring can also build an empire outside it. But when you've had it all, the glory, the spotlight, the riches, what do you chase next? What remains when the flash fades? And all that's left is the man in the mirror. Before you go, don't miss out on exclusive perks. Click the link in the description to become a channel member and enjoy awesome benefits, like suggesting future video topics, getting early access to new content 48 hours before anyone else, and much more. Your support means the world and helps us keep bringing you the stories you love. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe for more amazing content. And while you're here, why not check out our deep dive into Deontay Wilder's video? Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.